Hello and welcome to the beautiful city of San Antonio. Today we're going to be taking a ride on Amtrak's Texas Eagle up to Dallas. This will be part 1 in a 2-part journey, with our first leg taking us from here up to Temple, Texas. Our journey today will take us north through the heart of Central Texas, with major stops including Austin, Temple, and Fort Worth before arriving in Dallas. The trip will take just over 8 hours and cover a total of 300 miles along the way. Amtrak's Texas Eagle actually arrives in San Antonio the night prior, having traversed the desert from Los Angeles to Texas. Here, the train splits into the Texas Eagle, which continues north to Chicago, and the Sunset Limited, which heads east to New Orleans. Our train, Amtrak 22, is waiting for us on track 1, headed by GE Genesis P42DC number 59. Trailing Locomotive 59 are 5 Superliner cars, including 1 sleeper, 1 dining car, and 3 coach cars. Consists on Amtrak's long-distance trains were scaled back during the pandemic, with unnecessary cars like the observation car cut from service on many routes. The Texas Eagle was cut down to a total of 4 cars at one point. The 5th car is actually a fairly recent addition. As service returned to normal, consists recovered, however the observation car has yet to return to service on the Texas Eagle. The waiting area in San Antonio is rather lackluster. Despite being a split point between 2 of Amtrak's long-distance routes, there really isn't much here. Inside the station building are a few rows of seats, a couple vending machines, bathrooms, and an Amtrak ticketing desk. It's definitely functional, but it's not very welcoming. Fortunately, we don't have to stay in the waiting area very long, as boarding begins soon after we arrive. At the time of boarding, passengers are split by car depending on their final destination. We're instructed to board the second-to-last coach and make our way over to the boarding line. After waiting for the passengers in front of us to board, we can take our first steps onto the Texas Eagle. We'll be seated in the upper level today, so we head upstairs to find a seat. Heading upstairs, the first thing to notice are the brand new long-distance interiors. Amtrak has been working to retrofit their Superliner fleets with new upholstery, replacing the aging seats with a sleek and modern look. First impressions are everything, and I have to say these new seats have certainly started off with a positive one. Seating on Superliners is very spacious. There's plenty of room and you'll never feel cramped with more than enough space to stretch out. Each seat has a footrest that extends down from the seat back. They can be a little hard to get out with just your feet, so be prepared to touch these with your hands and maybe have some hand sanitizer on standby. The seat back pocket is decently sized and holds the safety information card. Each seat comes equipped with a tray table. The table folds down and then slides forward and backward to the user's liking. I found, however, that with my feet planted on the floor, the table hits my knees before laying flat, which can be annoying. That being said, there's plenty of room to slip one's feet forward to lower your knees, making this more of a minor inconvenience than an actual issue. Above each row are 2 lights, controlled by white buttons in the middle of the panel. They're fairly bright and can be moved about via the tabs on the sides. Each row also includes 2 outlets just below the window. These are, however, the only 2 outlets per row, so if the aisle-seated passenger wants to use one, they have to run a cord across the window passenger, which can be very annoying. Each seat has 2 major methods of adjustment. The first is the leg rest that can be extended out from beneath the seat. Unfortunately, it's not spring-loaded and thus must be moved by hand. The second adjustment is the backrest, which reclines rather far. This, in combination with the leg rest and footrest, transforms the normal coach seat into an angled bed. It's not as comfortable as an actual lie-flat seat, but it's certainly better than bolt upright. The conductor soon sounds the all aboard, and our train departs for this 8-hour journey up to Dallas. Immediately, something interesting happens. Instead of pulling forward like I had expected, our train begins moving backward. The tracks ahead would take us east out of San Antonio, following the route of the Sunset Limited on its way to New Orleans. There's no way to transfer to the northbound tracks should we continue north, so we back out heading under I-37 to transfer onto the correct line. In my best attempt to see this in action, I headed to the rear of our train. The rear door of Superliner coaches provides an excellent view of the tracks behind us. However, an Amtrak employee soon fills this spot as they radio up to the engineer, relaying crucial information during the backing procedure. I was also informed that this coach would in fact be out of service for today's journey, which means no cool shots out of the rear of the train. We soon transferred onto the main line and began heading north towards Dallas. Our train left San Antonio behind, powering up the I-35 corridor. The first station on our route today is a very brief stop in San Marcos. The station here is just a platform and an awning for shelter. We picked up a couple passengers and we're soon on our way. I was starting to get pretty hungry, so I made my way over to the dining car to see what I could find. The dining car is the second most car in our consist, situated between the sleeper and the 3 coach cars. The dining car itself is split into 2 sections, with one for sleeper passengers and one for coach passengers. The coach portion consists of 4 tables and the snack bar, which isn't a ton of space considering how many passengers there are in coach. That being said, most coach passengers take their snacks and drinks back to their seats as it's often easier to eat there. The other side of the dining car contains a significantly greater number of tables allocated for Amtrak's traditional dining option. Unfortunately, this option is still only for sleeper passengers, and it's likely to remain this way for quite some time. Offered on today's route are a selection of snacks and drinks, alcoholic and not, and a few hot options for larger meals. For breakfast, Amtrak offers a sausage, egg, and cheese sandwich, a cinnamon roll, a bagel with cream cheese, and a blueberry muffin. I opted for the bagel with cream cheese and a cup of coffee this morning. Now, I'm not sure what I was expecting from this selection, maybe a toasted bagel with cream cheese like you get at a Starbucks or something, but this was far worse. The bagel came individually packaged and was reheated in the microwave, so it was just hot and not crisp at all. It was incredibly chewy, and the only redeeming factor was the cream cheese, which was name brand, so quality was to be expected. I would certainly avoid this at all costs if possible. At least the coffee was pretty okay. I would have loved to say that the scenery out the windows distracted me from this wildly mediocre meal, however the cloud cover cast a gray filter across the landscape which detracted from the usual Texas beauty. Moving away from the food, the dining car itself is a nice change of scenery from the usual interiors. There are 4 tables for passengers to sit and eat, with 2 of both rounded groups and traditional booths. The bar itself is very Amtrak, with a clear preference of function over form, with exposed aluminum everywhere you look. The sole piece of actual decoration is an Amtrak poster that appears to be for the Southwest Chief, although the name isn't actually displayed. If you have a better idea of what this route is, let me know in the comments down below. Having finished up breakfast, I headed back to our seat. The landscape crept by as we made our way through the Texas wilderness and on to New Braunfels. Our first taste of top speed came along the I-35 corridor between New Braunfels and Kyle. Amtrak is not known as a high-speed rail service, but 70 miles per hour is certainly better than nothing. We've got some time before our arrival into Austin, so let's check out the bathrooms on board. Bathrooms on board Superliners are located downstairs, so we'll head to the center of our car and then down the stairwell to find them. There are a total of 5 bathrooms on each car, which means there should always be one available. The first bathroom we'll take a look at on our journey is the accessible bathroom. This is by far the largest of the 5, with more than enough space to maneuver around in. The facilities are fairly standard, which is expected for Amtrak. The sink works well and the soap is full with well-stocked paper products, as should be expected for a train that just began its journey. Along with the usual selection of facilities, Amtrak includes cups in their bathrooms, which allows passengers to stay hydrated, although I'm not sure if I trust Amtrak's sink water all too much. There's also a standard 120-volt outlet next to the tissues, presumably put there for passengers' electric bathroom products, and seeing as Amtrak's long-distance routes can exceed 48 hours, I'm sure these get used pretty frequently. One irritating aspect of this bathroom is the trash bag that is tied to one of the handrails next to the sink. There's a trash can just beneath the tissues and paper towels that works perfectly well for collecting waste, however the staff opted not to use it for whatever reason, which really lowers the quality of the bathroom. Beyond that, the facilities are fairly clean, although it feels pretty tired and can definitely use a new coat of paint. The suburbs of Austin soon rolled into view, passing some of my favorite filming spots in the South Austin area along the way. The trees lining the tracks eventually gave way as we reached Lady Bird Lake, for what will be one of the prettiest arrivals into any city that Amtrak serves. The banks of Lady Bird Lake give way to the skyline beyond, reaching high into the heavens. Austin is our first major stop on today's trip and will be the first of 3 smoke stops on our way up to Dallas. Stations designated as smoke stops feature longer waits, which allow passengers to step off and grab some fresh air, stretch their legs, and often partake in the namesake of the stops, smoke. Knowing we had a few minutes before departing, I headed downstairs and onto the platform to get better acquainted with our train. Despite being in a pretty weird place in Austin, the city provides an incredible backdrop to get some sweet glamour shots of the Texas Eagle. We may have been able to catch a glimpse of our locomotive in San Antonio, but now we can get some really good looks at Amtrak P42DC number 59. P42DCs have always been my favorite locomotives, seeing as I grew up right as they were entering service. Amtrak may be replacing its fleet of P42s with ALC42s from Siemens, but these will always hold a special place in my heart. Our conductor sounds the all aboard, and we hop back on to continue on our way. Departing Austin, our train heads up the center of the Mopac Freeway, named after the Missouri Pacific Railroad over which we ride. Continuing north out of Austin, our train passes through McNeil Junction, another one of my favorite filming locations. Here, the Union Pacific Austin subdivision meets the Austin Western Railroad, with Austin's Metro Rail commuter line passing over the freight tracks on the viaduct above. 30 minutes after leaving Austin, we pulled into Taylor. Taylor is a regular station stop on our route, and as such it will only be a few minutes. We load up a couple passengers and are soon on our way. Only a few minutes down the road is Temple, our next stop. Temple is also a smoke stop, so we'll have another opportunity to hop off the train to get some fresh air. As we pull into Temple, it's time to bring part 1 of this adventure to a close. Part 2 will be going live in the coming weeks, so be sure to stick around to see the conclusion of this incredible journey. Next week, we'll be back at LAX to fly on Delta's flagship A350-900 in Premium Select out to Atlanta, an experience that ended up being way nicer than anything I could have ever anticipated. If you're new around here, I would really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button down below. It's totally free and it really helps support the channel. If you liked the video, drop it a like too. Likes help push my videos to more awesome viewers like you, and the more people who support the channel, the more trips we can take in the future. But anyways, that's all I have for today. Thanks for riding with me, and I'll see you in the next one.